morning, we're looking at sunrise from Xcaret Hotel in Mexico. With regard to the subject of Planet X, there's a few things here that I find compelling. For example, notice what has come into view up here. The question that confronts us now is that a celestial body, a big planet, or is it just a coincidental appearance of cloud or mist or some other effect that just happens to look like a planet? Upon careful observation, it comes clear that our first glance impression is correct. In fact, there are multiple celestial bodies in this transitory event. As we proceed to assess the site of this, with the intent of understanding it correctly, perhaps it's useful to look at a couple photographs in which there is a planetary body, thus giving us a point of reference on what it can look like. Here we have the moon, as seen from the upper boundary of the troposphere. And again here. Considering this picture, in which we know that the object is a celestial body, in comparison with similar features in the Xcaret webcam footage, well, in my view, it yields persuasive support that what we have here are indeed celestial bodies in this video capture from the morning of June 3rd, 2019. So here's the larger one that we've delineated already, and a smaller body transiting in front of it. Now, seriously, isn't this remarkable, what we're seeing here? Yet, it seems to me, generally speaking, we're not really fazed by it. We're not impressed or moved to action, not alarmed or startled. What's the reason for that? Why aren't we amazed at seeing planets up there in our sky that don't belong there and that are unidentified officially? How is this not absolutely startling? And the answer? We don't really believe it. Even though we're seeing it right there with our own eyes, the mind just kicks in with a default explanation to the effect of, well, it's entertaining seeing that there. And yeah, you can imagine that to be a couple planets, but you don't actually believe that, do you? And that's about where this conversation generally ends up. Obviously, one of the main reasons for a complete dismissal of this subject is because there are proposals being raised here that are just unbelievable. Now, in the study of this subject and the pursuit of answers and understanding regarding this Planet X Nemesis situation, there is one critical fact that I'd like to make sure to convey in the process and context of the things I am saying and showing in these videos. And that crucial point to understand is this: there are multiple scientific fundamentals and conditions that appear to disqualify and derail the whole Planet X saga nice and tidy. The type of factors and conditions that I'm referring to are things like the laws and science of gravitational influence, which underscores the fact that if there were additional large planetary bodies moving into the inner solar system, well, we should be seeing repercussions from the gravitational presence of those supposed incoming celestial bodies. Repercussions not only in the Earth-Moon system, but in the Sun and the solar system at large. Okay, let's address that just a little bit. So we've got an expert here who explains to us that there is no evidence of the gravitational presence of these supposed Planet X things in our solar system. Well, a declaration such as that would be incorrect, because there are, in fact, a number of situations where an extra gravitational force is seen affecting the Sun and planets here in our system. For example, it was the presence of an unknown gravitational force affecting the orbits of Uranus and Neptune that gave rise to a dedicated search for an unknown celestial body in the outer reaches of the solar system. The project was headed by astronomer, astrophysicist Dr. Robert S. Harrington at the U.S. Naval Observatory. This hunt for the source of that unidentified gravitational presence spanned more than a decade, starting roughly in about 1978, and ended with the death of Dr. Harrington in 1993. There is, of course, a rich field of information in the Science Journal articles from Dr. Harrington and colleagues. I'd like to draw out a few points in this paper from 1988. But in order to be on track with the context of what Harrington's report is saying, we need to refresh our knowledge of who Percival Lowell is, or was. Born in 1855 in Boston, Massachusetts, Percival Lowell went on to great achievements in business and academics. Among his scholastic achievements, he attended Harvard University and came away in 1896 with distinction in mathematics. He achieved notoriety as a world-class mathematician, author, and astronomer. Throughout the 1880s, until 1894, Lowell traveled extensively in the Far East and served as Foreign Secretary for a time. From 1894 onward, Lowell focused all of his attention and resources on the study of astronomy, with mathematics as an integral aspect of celestial mechanics. Using his wealth and influence, this energetic fellow chose the location of Flagstaff, Arizona, to establish a magnificent observatory, where he spent the next 23 years observing the planets and the wonders of our solar system. Through his skills in astronomy and brilliance as a mathematician, Percival Lowell discovered that there absolutely must be another planetary body in our solar system. This conclusion was based on anomalous movements in the orbital paths of Uranus and Neptune. When the data from these fluctuations is collated, charted, and brought into relative perspective, in astronomy these discrepancies are called ephemerides. So Lowell determined that another planet, as yet undiscovered, must be out there. One of the known facts of the final decade of his work is that the focus of Lowell's resources was exerted continually in the search for Planet X. After his passing in 1916, the effort was carried forward by Lowell's colleagues and successors to discover whatever was the source, the cause, of the gravitational anomalies documented in Lowell's observations. 14 years after his death, the dedicated astronomer Clyde Tombaugh discovered Pluto in 1930. This was an event to be celebrated, and it was hailed as the long-sought Planet X. So at first, they thought Pluto was the gravitational source that Lowell had predicted. But in the years after the excitement settled down and more data was gathered, it came to be realized there's no way that this rather small celestial body can be the Planet X of Lowell's calculations. The verdict held across the board by all the accredited astronomers and scientists was that no way could Pluto be it. Moreover, along with that conclusion is the reality that the ephemerides, or gravitational anomalies, documented by Lowell, are still there. And thus we arrive at the work of Dr. R.S. Harrington, some 60 years later, who in his project reports comments that the discrepancies that started Lowell onto this track are still occurring 60 years later and had increased in magnitude, or in other words, the apparent gravitational interference had grown more pronounced by Harrington's time. Let's bring forward a few details from Dr. Harrington's report in volume 96 of the Astronomical Journal. The Location of Planet X by R.S. Harrington, U.S. Naval Observatory, Washington, D.C. I'll paraphrase what this is saying. The planet Pluto was found in 1930, and at the time of this discovery, Pluto was hailed as the object predicted by Lowell from the gravitational anomalies he documented. In 1978, additional data came in that revealed that Pluto could not have caused any of the perturbations that were occurring in the orbits of Uranus and Neptune. The motions of Uranus and Neptune cannot be adequately represented within the present gravitational model of the solar system. Pluto cannot have any detectable effect on these two planets. There is, therefore, a good possibility that there is at least one undetected planet in our solar system. In the battlefield of opinions and arguments concerning the Planet X Nemesis situation, the details in this bulletin are compelling. Consider this. On the authority of his office as head of the U.S. Naval Observatory, Dr. R.S. Harrington is describing that there is an unidentified gravitational source that effectively announces the presence of another celestial body in our system. This report points out that whatever the source is of the anomalous gravitational pull, it has to be coming from a body with sufficient mass to cause the large planets Uranus and Neptune to swerve in their orbital course. On the authority of all the qualifications and expertise of Harrington, along with his colleagues, who are accredited in the fields of celestial mechanics and astrophysics, it is stated in plain words, the motions of Uranus and Neptune cannot be adequately represented or accounted for within the presently held gravitational model of the solar system. Now, we'll move on from this onto other interesting things in a moment, but before zooming ahead, I'd like to have a brief look at another report from Bob Harrington along with his associate Ken Seidelman, who headed the Department of Orbital Mechanics at the U.S. Naval Observatory. Publication 1988. Planet X, the Current Status. Report by Ken Seidelman and Dr. Robert S. Harrington. Here again, this report refers to an unidentified gravitational source that led to the discoveries of Neptune as well as Pluto. However, it was now found that Neptune was undergoing the same anomalous swerve in its orbital path as was Uranus. So in simple condensed form, Dr. Harrington and his colleagues have documented that the orbits of these two large planets, Uranus and Neptune, are being measurably affected by the gravitational influence of an unknown additional celestial body in our solar system. So, over 30 years have passed since the time of those documented observations. And now today, video recording the sky, we get this. We've noted the objects in the middle, and now over here to the left, it might have already caught your vision during the discussion, but I'll point it out a little bit here. It is quite faint, but at times you see it there in glimpses. Thus, here again we have a huge planetary body. And remember that the reason there are multiple planets being sighted here is because we're dealing with a planetary system with apparently 7 Earth-sized planets. The Nemesis system. Let's move on to another remarkable situation in this footage. Sunrise for this date and location is 6:07 a.m. The time we're at here is 5:42, so it's about a half hour before sunrise. It is normal for light to emanate up from the horizon before sunrise. It's called twilight. But this brightness on the horizon here, this is not twilight. It's far more intense and not gently dispersed the way twilight is. So, what is it? Remember, the sun is still down below the horizon. So, could it be that all of that light action there is still just the sun, kind of casting up a major glare before it actually reaches the moment of sunrise? One way to answer is if we just observe more of the footage, just watch and see what can be determined from that. Let's speed up the playback a bit more and observe and watch another minute of this footage while we wait for the sun to actually come up. Notice the continuous repeating cycle of how the light swells and then abruptly drops back down again. It's pertinent to bear in mind clearly that the sun still has not even come over the horizon yet. So what is this? And there it is, right on time at 6:07, the sun steps up above the horizon. Notice what a tiny little pinprick size it looks like compared to that large field of light that's been up already. Question: is the sun responsible for that huge field of light? To put it in other words, is that little tiny dot the source for all of this activity? And the answer is, of course, no. So, if all of that light activity there is not the sun, well then what is it? It is some aspect, some part of the Nemesis system. Is there any kind of conclusive result that may be drawn from the information shown in this video? Allow me to put forth a perspective. The video recording that we've looked at is accompanied by the basic important data such as location, the date, the time. The imagery, it's not touched up, no adjustments are made to the lighting or the contrast or anything. The only alteration is the speed at which the video is played back. It's playing faster than at real time. And on that foundation, we observed the details of this, there in the sky, over a period of time. Next, we noted the intense light that was above the horizon before sunrise by about 45 minutes.